Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. I am Bob Van Buren, your host. Just a reminder that this show is broadcast once a week with an individual guest with always an interesting topic. It could be the person's hobby, it might be their profession, might be a how-to segment, or even a musical episode. Whatever you need, it's always variety. So I would encourage you, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and that way you will get notifications of future guests, future shows that will definitely interest you. So glad you're here. And this is actually a milestone episode. I'm kind of proud of myself. Hope you're proud too. This is episode 70 of this show. So I now have had 70 shows, 70 very interesting guests, and I hope to have 70 and much more than that. So thank you all, my audience, and especially to my special guests that come on this show. I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Hope you've all had a great week so far. As you all know, most of you know, I am here in Texas. And right now at this moment, Texas is like the Mojave Desert. I mean, it's like Death Valley down here. Last time I checked my phone, where I'm at, it was 111 degrees. And it's going to be 111 tomorrow, by the way, too. So if wherever you are in the world, I would really, really appreciate if you would send some rain down here. Can you kind of, blow it down here? See this place on the map? Kind of show it's putting the moisture you can right here, because we need it. It is so bad. And on a serious note, we do have some fires going on down here. People have lost their homes. The fire is just out of control in a part of this state. So prayers to the family and to the firefighters who are fighting this fire. And again, help us pray for rain down here, because we really need it. We're kind of toasting down here, so please. But anyway, I hope that wherever you are, the weather's a little bit nicer than me where I'm at. But the Lord has a reason for everything, so we'll just give Him the glory no matter what. Have a very interesting show tonight. Very true to life and very, very, interesting, because it is history. And from watching my previous episodes, I put a very big value on history, especially those that are here to tell their stories. So let me put this in perspective. This was during the Vietnam War. And let me bring a map up, just kind of put this where we are. Here is a map of Southeast Asia. And you can see there's Vietnam there, there's Cambodia, there's Laos, Thailand, and you see a little bit of China up there. Specifically, what we're going to be talking about is Air America. And I know we've all heard about Air America, but some of us, don't know what it is. Maybe we've heard of it, but we have no idea what the concept is, what it's all about. How did it fit into the conflicts that existed in Southeast Asia in the 1960s and 1970s? Well, I have a guest here that will put it all in perspective, and he can tell it a lot better than anybody else can. So I am very proud to bring my guest on tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Captain Neil Hansen. He was in Air America, and he's even written a very interesting book, which we'll also talk about, called Flight, an Air America pilot story of adventure, descent, and redemption. So, Captain Hansen, welcome to the Van Buren Variety Show.
Thank you very much, Bob. And it's great to be able to put some of the myths to rest that have been told about Air America. Prior to coming with Air America, I was flying for Mr. Hoffa, who was president of the Teamsters Union.
Mm-hmm.
So his difficulties with the federal government were coming to a head, and soon he was going to be going on a federal vacation. And at that point, most corporate pilot jobs, you lose them when the regime changes. And in preparation for that, I saw an ad in the Washington Post for pilots in Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I applied and subsequently got hired. But one of the last flights I had with the union, one of the attorneys came up front while the co-pilot was serving drinks in the back. And he said, "Who are you going to go to work for?" I said, "Air America." He said, "Wow, the CIA." And of course, that gave you great visions of Terry and the Pirates comic strip of that era, and also James Bond books. that were coming out. But the reality was far from the novels that was there. And of course, my first foray into the Far East was into Tachikawa, Japan. And I was
Oh, really? Oh,
flying a DC-6 for Southern Air Transport. Now, Air America was a conglomerate of a lot of different companies through a Pacific Holding Corporation in Delaware. Southern Air Transport Pacific Division, Civil Air Transport, which is a flag carrier for Formosa, which is China,
mhm.
and also Arizona Helicopters, and a number of other little companies were hidden in there. Most of our aircraft, other than Southern Air Transport, were Chinese registry. They were not American registry or Lao registry. And it gave them plausible deniability if that thing was found somewhere it wasn't supposed to be.
Yep.
And the DC-6 thing out of Tachikawa is rather nice. But occasionally they'd pull that airplane off to the side of the runway in Kadena in Okinawa, strip off all the markings. So it was just a bare aluminum airplane. You'd come out at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and leave all your identification and operations, and you'd fly that thing 10 hours down into Southeast Asia,
Mm,
maintain radio
wow.
silence the whole time,
Huh.
and flying 500 feet off normal airline altitudes so you didn't
Wow.
big bang somewhere. Offload the munitions down there and turn around and do the same thing coming back. You'd only make one radio call when you're about 15 miles out of Kadena, and they simply clear you to land. And they'd paint everything back on it. From there, I went to Saigon. Saigon at that time in 64, 65
hmm
was in the process of building up. We had 10 airplanes and 10 pilots. So I was
Oh,
on the line as a captain very shortly. Within 30 days, I was an instructor pilot, and a couple months after that, they made me assistant manager of flying. Those wings you see on our website are supervisory pilot wings.
okay.
I had the opportunity to have a radio by my bed and be called out at any time of the day or night. Uh, this was very hectic. I was checking out new people. And sometimes when the poor guys would come into Saigon, they'd get off Pan Am, they'd hear gunfire out around the place. They'd get right back on the airplane and go home. Probably a damn good idea.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I enjoyed that.
Me too. I am too.
And black flights would come up. Well, supervisory pilots would normally do the black flights. Some of these were good, and some of these were not. Uh, the bad part about them, and you had to learn the hard way, is that somebody in Washington, sitting behind a desk, came up with an idea that this would be a kind of a neat thing to do, and they'd task us with doing it.
hmm
Well, they didn't know the reality of the environment, and I spent about a week being detained by the Thais for smuggling a guy into Thailand.
Oh no.
Another one was in the middle of the night. They also had a radio by your bed, which could disturb your sleep. And they had me pick up an American co-pilot to come out to the airport. And they sent an embassy with a van with armed guards. And we came out because it was after curfew.
hmm
And C-46 there. And
Oh
the
wow.
agency guys always played with code names and stuff like that. But in operations, he took me over to the side. He didn't want my co-pilot to hear what he's going to tell me. And I
Mm-hmm.
want you to go nonstop to Hong Kong in a C-46. Don't let the co-pilot see what you're carrying, and don't make radio contact. Well,
Oh
he's got to
wow.
walk all the way up the side of the airplane, and he's going to see what's there. But I did. And the bad part about that one was that if they wouldn't clear me to land in Hong Kong, I would have a real problem because I didn't have enough fuel to go anywhere else. So I
Oh
either had
no.
to ditch it or just come on in and face the music. And the airplane was loaded with grenades, tear gas grenades, small arms stuff. And
Wow.
that was a big no-no in Hong Kong at that time with the
Oh,
British.
yeah.
And got about 50 miles outside of Hong Kong and gave them a call. And they just cleared me to land. Hey, this is nice.
That
And
was a
they
relief.
parked right in front of the main terminal. And here came a Hong Kong police van out and
Mm.
stake bed truck. And they said, "Good day, mate." And they started offloading this stuff. Well, I found out the reason was there was rioting going on. They needed the tear gas and all the rest of that. And
Oh, okay.
back the same way. But those things are not normal, but they do happen. And some of these things did not make a lot of sense. My smuggling a guy into Thailand. Why are we smuggling a guy into Thailand, a friendly country? I don't know who the hell it was because he didn't want me to look at him. It could have been Adolf Hitler. Who knows?
Hope not, but could be. Yeah.
But after about 4 years in Saigon, going through the Tet Offensive, I got tired of it, being on call 24 hours a day, and transferred up to Vientiane, Laos. And Vientiane, Laos was Sin City on the Mekong. Everybody was there. Not only the Americans, the French were still there.
Oh,
The
really?
Russians were there. The North Vietnamese were there. The Pathe Lao, the communist Laotians, and supposedly a neutral country. But when you got out of town, it was a different story because we all
Mm.
ate and drank in the same places. And we did not have PXs and stuff like that. Neither did we in Saigon.
Mm-hmm.
No, you suffered some of the unusual ways of walking when you
Nah.
had
Yeah.
critters on board. But Laos was where the real war was. Uh,
Wow.
the Hmong were our main fighters up in that area, and they were keeping two North Vietnamese divisions at bay to keep them from coming down into South Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
Also, the Ho Chi Minh Trail ran through Laos,
Oh, yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
well
You're right.
defended. And the Chinese even had a road coming down from Yunnan province down towards Thailand, which has now been completed. And you can take a train from China to Thailand. But all of these were well defended. The central part of Laos had a plateau there called a plain de Boulevans, or not plain de Boulevans, plain of jars.
Mm-hmm.
And there were stone jars there. But the enemy had that. And they had radar controlled weapons there. And they could get your attention real quick.
I'm
But
sure.
surrounding this, there was various outposts that was manned by the Hmong, and also usually have an agency advisor there, which was great fun because the agency was good guys, but they were tasked with maintaining the serenity of that particular area they were assigned, and they would lie to you about enemy positions because they wanted you in there and resupplying.
A
And
false positive, basically, right?
yes, you had to watch what they were saying and use various methods of entering and exiting the hot areas that you were dropping in.
Mm.
123 program was primarily airdropping, and this was a ballet in the sky. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed airdropping, and some of it would be rice. It'd be double bagged, 100-kilo bags, but only 40 kilos in there. And you drop this from 800 feet, 105 knots, and the air resistance would slow these bags down. So in the last 50 to 100 feet, they'd be falling vertically and wouldn't break.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah. But in some of the new areas you went to, the villagers were hungry and they would come out and try to catch one of these.
Oh,
Well,
no.
it would put a little meat with the rice. Uh, The other thing that was valuable too was the pallets that they were on. They were plywood, and this was a wonderful building material for them. but it's coming down like a falling leaf,
Exactly.
and it will cut you right in two. At some
Oh,
of the
wow.
villages there that had been supplied via airdrops from C-46s and C-123s, the children there believed rice grew in the sky because that's where it
They
came
were so used to it coming down.
from.
Yeah.
The tribal existence of the Hmong that were there, they were fighting for their homeland, and they did an excellent job. I was really honored to be with them over here in Sheboygan at some of the festivals and their parade. They were literally abandoned at the end of the war, but they harbored no ill feelings, and that was amazing.
Sad.
Any questions so far, buddy?
Well, let me ask you, you talked so much about Air America. What got you interested? Well, there's two parts to this question. What got you interested in Air America, and how did you end up joining Air America?
Well, I did that when Jimmy was, Hoffa was about to go to prison. And
Okay.
that provided the fuel for me to get out of Dodge. And this was the kind of flying that I really enjoyed. We weren't like in today's world where most of the airplanes are computerized or anything else. We had no autopilots. And in Laos, we had no nav aids. It was simply a geometry problem, time and distance and speed. And that was good, except there was times when we didn't know what the winds aloft were, and it could blow you off course. And you had to be careful where you let down. You tried to catch a glimpse of the ground down there and be able to let down where you thought you were, and you really were. But we lost two C-123s due to that, and the Chinese gunners got them, and with the loss of the entire crew. Just got remains of one of the crews back here just last year.
Oh,
And,
really? Oh,
yeah.
wow. Oh.
The last bit of the war, we lost over 50% of our C-123s.
Oh, no.
Which was bad news.
Is this the plane you're talking about, the C-123s?
Yes, that's it.
That's it. Okay.
That one burned up at 20 Alternate, which was called the most secret place on earth at one time. And one of the little airplanes taxied into one of those round seal drums that are behind it, and they're full of fuel. And of course, it burned everything up, including his airplane, but everybody got out okay.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad everybody survived. I like hearing success stories like that for sure.
Yes, but losing 240 of us over there, and the families got nothing. The good part about today is we do have a bill that's gone through the Senate, and it's now in the House. And Congressman Glenn Grothman is spearheading the thing in the House. And once that happens, if it gets passed in the House, it'll go to the big man in the White House. And whether the spirit moves him or not, I don't know. But
so should we call, I'm talking about everybody here, it's American. Yes. Should we call our representatives and can tell them they need to vote for this?
Please do.
Okay.
And the more noise we make, the better our chances are. It's kind of sad that most of the guys are gone. I'm one of the few that's left, but I'm 85 years old. And a lot of them have died, but the families would benefit from this. And
what is the name of the bill? Is there a certain bill number or name that we call our congressman over?
Yes, I thought maybe Luann had sent that to you.
Maybe she did. But yeah, we'll definitely check that out and call our congressman.
It's the America bill, and it was initiated by Grothman in the House back last year.
Okay.
And the one in the Senate is already passed unanimously, luckily. And we're just hoping for more movement on this. That would be a great thing.
Oh, so you entered Air America at a very young age then, correct?
Yes, I was 25 years old.
Were you this young man right here?
Yes, it kind of looks like me. Pretty thin there.
What's that? I didn't hear you. What?
I was pretty thin there. 150 pounds is about my average weight, and now that's gone out to the bottom. But I went down one time due to hepatitis when I was in Cambodia to 104.
104?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I was skin and bone, pretty scary looking.
Hey, you know what? I always tell people, that haven't seen me in a while. My favorite line is, yeah, you haven't seen me in a while. And that was 30 years ago and 50 pounds lighter. So that's my
Right.
excuse. We got
During
a
the war,
question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
during the war, I moved my family down to New Zealand. Two of my children were born in Bangkok Hospital, and
Okay.
one was from the United States, was there, and they've made a good life for themselves down there, which is good. Although I lost my oldest daughter to cancer here a
Oh,
year or so
sorry
ago.
to hear that, sir.
Well, it happens. You can't bank on happiness forever,
That's true.
but they've got a good life.
That's good. That's what's important.
Grandkids are doing good. My youngest granddaughter is an attorney down there. She
Okay.
graduated from college at 23 with 4 degrees.
23. Wow.
Well, they have a 4 semester system there,
Oh,
which
okay.
very well. And they've got a different theory of government down there that if you give your citizens good health care, which is part of your citizenship, and
Mm-hmm.
a good education, you'll have yourself a good asset, which there's no big bills for them to overcome when they graduate from college if they maintain a B
Yeah.
average. Their room and board and their tuition are all free, which that's a good idea. I
Great. I like that.
smart.
We got a question from the audience. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but Gary's asking, it's kind of cut off. He says, what is the bill about? Can you explain this bill? And what is it that's being passed or being voted on?
It's being voted on getting benefits for the survivors like me, which would be good, and
Well deserved.
all the widows and children of whoever it was that got killed there. 240 of us, and it's just a real shame that nothing's happened up till now. And the whole start of this thing was I do a lot of public speaking, and I was speaking over in a little town here in Wisconsin, and Congressman Grothman was in the audience, and
Good.
he never heard of us either. And he carried forward with this and wanted to know more about it. Well, he also wanted to introduce a bill in Congress to try to rectify this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also another bill in the Senate going at the same time. Now it's got through the Senate, which I thought that was a little backwards. I thought the House bill went to the Senate and then you
Yeah, normally, yeah.
yeah, but the Senate passed it unanimously, and now it's in the House, and then it'll go to the big guy in the White House, and we'll see what happens there. I don't expect any rapid movement, but I can only hope.
Well, we are talking about the government and all the red tape, but hopefully they'll push this as quickly as possible
Right.
because it needs to be done. It should have been done decades ago.
That's right. It should have been done decades ago. And actually, the whole thing got into the public view when George Tenet was director of the agency.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave us a unit citation, which admitted we were with the agency. And he got fired not too long after that.
Oh, really?
But
um,
at least we've got that little piece of paper in our folder. And all of these things are very important. The history that we have is exemplary. There was a movie out, Air America, but it's a movie and it's done in a Hollywood Rambo style.
exactly.
But
Mm-hmm.
at least it got the name out. That's one thing. A lot of guys were unhappy with that. I wasn't because nobody else had heard of us before. So this is good. It didn't make the pilots evil or anything else, but it did illustrate some of the issues that were in that part of the world. The one big issue that everybody cringes about is drugs. Laos had no drug laws. It was open
A
fire.
free for all, basically.
It was. And the poor hill tribes up there, you can't sell rutabagas and make enough money to survive in a year.
The economy, yeah.
Yeah. And the drugs were started back many years ago in that part of the world, not only by the French or the British. The British had opium that they were smuggling into China at one time.
Oh, wow.
The French controlled an awful lot of that, and they were still there, and it was still going on. We did not have any intentional movement of the opium.
Mm-hmm.
I know it probably sometimes there was a villager in the back of the airplane coming down to Vientiane with maybe a kilo of sticky opium and selling it down there. Well, he'd get maybe $30 for a kilo of opium. That same kilo, $280,000 in New York City. But
Wow.
he did not benefit from any wild, quick scheme. He just had enough money to buy some food and go back home. And
That's what he wanted, yeah.
yeah,
That's
that's
what was
what he
needed.
wanted. And it did happen, I know. But was it an evil intent? No, it wasn't. It was a survival intent.
Absolutely. You do what you have to do to feed your family, you know?
That's exactly right. And it's amazing how the tribal existence of the Hmong has morphed into a beneficial group of people in America. They are hard workers. They're just amazing people. One good friend I have over here in Sheboygan, Bu Yang, I met him and when I was speaking in Milwaukee, and he walked up to me and shook my hand and gave me a Y and said, "You saved my family." Well, on the evacuations, I may have. I don't know. One trip I came out of 20 alternate in the middle of Laos with 154 in the back. Normally,
Wow.
you had only seating for 60.
Oh,
So
man.
everybody just hang on because we're going to go. But yeah, I was violating a lot of the performance envelope. And if it was in America, they'd probably throw you in jail. But they were going to die.
Exactly.
And you can't say no.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I may have had some of his family there. It's hard to say.
Is there a group out there, Captain Hansen? I believe it's on Facebook regarding Air America. People can
Yes.
kind of log in. Let me display that for our audience, and you can kind of tell us more about it. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is a screenshot of the Air America page on Facebook. I highly recommend you go and like it. So, Captain Hansen, I'll let you kind of tell us about the site here.
Yes, the wings there in the little circle are my wings. And the chopper that's coming into the Pittman building there was flown by one of the Air America pilots.
Oh,
And
really? Oh, okay.
sadly, he was killed in a traffic accident here.
Oh, no. Oh,
But we had him up here as a speaker at AirVenture. And it was a wonderful thing to see him. But people were panicking then too. And they'd overload the airplane and the rest of that. There was an agency guy at the top of those stairs, O.B. Harnage, and he was monitoring the loading. But they took as many as they could before.
and this is the fall of Saigon, correct?
Yes, that's the fall of Saigon.
Mm.
It was a sad day.
Yeah,
But
it
at
really
this
was.
time, I was over in Cambodia.
You were in Cambodia.
Yes. When Vientiane Air America stopped in Laos, I left Air America and I got lured back to Cambodia. I picked up a Convair 440 down in Singapore and flew that from Singapore up to Cambodia. Well, it was a great airplane, an ex-Garuda airplane actually, but it had dry seals in the engine, and I lost an engine coming out of Battambang, which was over near the Thai border. Well, bummed a ride back to Phnom Penh. And Phnom Penh was under constant siege. When you came out the airport, there was all kinds of sandbag bunkers around and
Oh,
things
wow.
like that. And they'd blow a siren when one of the outposts around the perimeter would hear a round coming over from either a howitzer or a rocket. And everybody go to the bunkers or lay down until it hit. And, there was no regulation as far as that goes of what you were going to fly. If you were out there and we all wore the same uniform, and a flight came about that they needed a pilot for, you just got in and flew it.
Right.
Whether you'd ever been in the damn thing before or not.
Do as you're told, right? Following orders.
Well, I ended up going into a C-46, which actually it had been an old Zantop airplane here in the United States, but it had the illegal Curtiss Wright C-46 four-bladed steel propellers, which is illegal in America.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the first takeoff out of Phnom Penh, they were shelling the place, so I didn't fool around with doing any fancy pre-flight or anything else. Started up and go. And I had a Chinese co-pilot, and it shook like hell on takeoff. It was awful. But
Thought it was falling apart, I'm sure.
yeah, once I got off the ground and pulled the power back and make the first power reduction, it smoothed out. Well, I thought maybe it's a tire that's out of balance.
Yeah.
And flew it a few more times until one day I was going up to a site north of Phnom Penh with a load of rice out of the coastal town. And I was letting down. There's a loud bang in the back.
Uh-oh.
And Chinese co-pilot, he said, "Oh, cargo fall over." Well, no, I know what that noise is. That's a round hitting you.
Oh, no. Oh.
And landed and walked around it. And there was a bullet hole about 4 inches from the main fuel selector valve on the right side. And it baffed in the nacelle out to the top of the wing and through the cabin and onward and upward. Well, there wasn't time to really give it a good pre-flight there.
Yeah, not at that point, no.
So I turned around, brought it back to Kampong Sam on the coast. And once there, I walked around it carefully. And no, there's no other bullet holes. But when I came up to the propeller on the left side, like most pilots, you grab the propeller blade and it moved back and forth. That meant the whole blade was loose in the hub, which meant the thing would probably come off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I parked that until another ride came up with a Convair 440, Anchorwatt Airlines. That was a good bird. But my last days, I backtrack a little bit in Laos. I was tasked with airdropping down in the Plateau de Boulevans. And the fire bases that I was dropping at were right near the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And they were harassing the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which wasn't popular with the North Vietnamese.
That's right.
We had a lot of wounded there and the rest of that. And I was tasked to drop at 2 sites right by the trail. Well, first site I went into, great. Dropped there and no problem. The next site was about 15 miles away. So versus closing up in the back and going over there, I told the 2 Thai loadmasters, or what we called kickers in the back, leave the ramp down and get ready to drop this next site. And Sampap and Buma, good guys, they did. But as we overheaded the next site, the customer on the ground came on the radio, said, Big Bird, get out of here, get out of here. AAA. Well, AAA is anti-aircraft artillery.
Oh.
And it comes in a lot of different flavors. It'll come in a quad 50, but those are green tracers, and it's easy to tell it's a bad guy. Next up the flavor ladder was 23 millimeter, and it's rapid fire and white hot, and looks like white hot flash bulbs coming up at you. and it was an
Wow.
explosive round.
Scary.
We step up to the major leagues, and that's 37 millimeter and 57 millimeter. Well, I cobbed it and brought the jets up to 100 and spiraled out of there. And I didn't see anything. And I asked loadmasters in the back, and Sound Pop came on the intercom and says, "Yes, Captain, red balls went by the tail." Well,
Oh, wow.
that's bad news stuff. I went back down to Parkside, landed there, and told the customer, Tall Man was his code name, what had happened. And he says, "Oh, no, there's no big weapons there." Well, I beg to differ with you. Go on.
Yeah, right.
My guys. Oh, no, it makes you happy. We'll send out a patrol and sweep the area. Well, about an hour later, he said, "Yeah, they swept the area and there's nothing there." And I said, "Well, I'll go back, providing you give me some fighter cover and have one of our helicopters stand by in case
Absolutely.
I have a problem." And he reluctantly agreed to that. And the choppers were going in and out of these sites, and they weren't getting shot at. But we've also heard that there was a bounty on big birds for the bad guy gunners. And
really?
probably true. And I climbed up out of there, followed the choppers over, and listened to them go in and out of the site and pick up wounded. Well, when they cleared the site, I told the guys, "Hang on." And if you've ever shot any skeet or birds, if it comes right over you fast, it's hard to hit. And I put it right down the top of the jungle and got it all ready in the back. I opened up the ramp and everything else and told the guys to hang on. We're going to make one pass. That's it. Well, when I got within about a half a mile of the drop site, I pulled up to what I needed to have 400 feet for the chutes to deploy, and they nailed me. The first thing I lost was aileron controls. That's those funny little flippy things out in the wings.
Yes.
That control the angle of bank.
Right.
And it went loose my hands, and the airplane started to roll into the jungle on the left. Well, the only thing you can do at that point is wipe all the power off the right side, and it slowly came back, and she was shaking like hell. And
wow, scary.
And one of the Air America choppers, H-34s, called me and says, "You're losing fluid." Well, they nailed put holes in a right nacelle tank, 700-gallon tank, and I was losing fuel out of there rapidly, which meant I would not have enough fuel to get back. Plus, my control problems were an issue. So I headed over to where an old Japanese fighter strip was from World War II. And I could either put it on the ground there or bail out. But it's so overgrown and everything, I opted we're going to go for a walk. And told the co-pilot, "Go in the back and get with Sound Pop and Booma and wedge that troop door open on the side. And when I ring the bell, you guys go." Well, that was a great idea, except when I was about to ring the bell, co-pilot was back in the cockpit. And I said, "What the hell do you want?" He says, "I want my survival vest." Well, when he went back down the ladder with his vest, I told Sound Pop back there, "Take it away from him and throw it out the door." If he tries to put that on, it's going to cover up the back of his parachute and it won't open.
Exactly.
Probably wasn't a good idea.
Wow. Throw it out. Yeah, get rid of it.
Yeah, so I made another circle around and about to ring the bell again, and he was back in the cockpit. And I used some unprofane language and, what the hell do you want? He wants his camera. He bought a Nikon camera in Hong Kong that
really
valued, I think, more than his life. Well, that's where he got his cut on his forehead as I backhanded him.
Yeah, hey, he deserved it.
But you can't hang on to that damn thing when you exit the airplane.
No.
Next time when I rang the bell, I told Sampa, "I don't care what you do, throw him out." And when Booma jumped He looked out the door, and Sampop came right behind him and just took him out the door. And he had an adventure there because he'd never jumped before.
I did that time.
He struggled for a ways trying to get the pins or pull the ripcord on that thing and ruined his underwear. But I couldn't get out on that pass. So on the next pass, I locked the controls and exited stage door right. And I'd jumped before, so I knew what was about to happen. But the parachutes we had were from World War II. They'd been repaired a number of times, and they were what they call a standard wrap. I jumped sport parachutes, which are sleeves and smooth. It's wonderful. Well, this was not a smooth opening. And if you don't have your harness very tight, particularly the leg straps, you're going to talk in a high, squeaky voice.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. But even at that, it does jerk the hell out of you.
I'm sure. Obviously.
I got on the ground and shucked the chute and kept the ripcord, put it in my back pocket because that's an old habit, and went over to a little clearing, and one of our choppers, H-34s, were heading that way. But the only bad thing was the area that the little clearing I was in wasn't big enough for him to land. But he was going to try it. And he stuck his tail rotor in some of the branches and showered me with that stuff. And I thought, yeah, you fall on me and kill me now, and I'm going to really be mad. He picked back up, and I rode the sling into the cabin. And once in the cabin, I was wounded in there. And the guy across from me was a Hmong soldier, and he had a bloody arm and a puddle of vomit between his boots, and kind of knew how he felt. But damage to the tail rotor, it was shaking pretty bad. So we went over to the strip and went down there, shut down. And when they climbed down out of the cockpit, they said, there's another chopper coming for us. Well, when he did, he landed about 200 meters away from us. And he got over there. What the hell did you do that for? And he said, well, you guys are in a minefield, which they couldn't have been very good mines because they didn't go off.
Yeah.
Carry the wounded over there and load them on him, and he was full. So there was another chopper about to come back for us. And so we hunkered down in the grass. We all had Uzis with us.
That's good.
And, a good weapon. And waited for the next chopper to come. Well, he did, and we loaded in that thing and lifted off. And I made an obscene gesture to the bad guys. This
well deserved.
Plateau de Boulevans is a very high mesa. We got to the edge of the mesa, and he ran out of gas.
Oh, one thing after another.
Yeah, so we were auto-rotating down to a rice paddy near a little village. Could see, we didn't know if they're bad guys or good guys, but there was kids out and dogs and stuff like that. So that was probably a good sign. But as we flared the land in this paddy, one of our S-58Ts, which is a H-34 with two turbine engines, pulled up alongside, and he had gun mounts on it. I like my last ride into Paksay. But I was not really happy with our customer there, tall man. And when I walked into the office there was two case officers there, a tall man and gray fox, and still had the Uzi in my hand. And he turned whiter than a sheet of paper.
I bet.
And I dropped the clip out of it, and I says, who's buying a beer? He says, I don't know. And he smoked out the door. Gray Fox, who was the other customer there, says, he probably won't come back. And I said, that's very smart.
Yeah, that would be a smart idea. Yeah, exactly. After all that.
That was
wow. Good story.
When you got that much adrenaline in your system, you just can't drink enough.
Yeah, no. Let's kind of talk about your book, Captain Hansen. Let me bring your book back online. Tell us more about the book. Now, how long did it take you to write this book?
I'd written it over a number of years, as your memory starts to fail. And there were some iffy passages in there, but Luann did an excellent job of cleaning it up. And so it's not too raw and bad, but left a lot of racy things in there. It's not a G book by any stretch of the imagination, but
Maybe PG-13, maybe.
PG-13. But in the back, there's a list of all of the guys we lost in chronological order. And I'm glad that that's one thing that helps as far as getting them some form of recognition.
Absolutely.
And there's just a lot of history in there. I didn't sugarcoat stuff, but it's as I lived it. And it's
Sure.
not a documentary on the agency or anything else. It's my personal experiences in that area. And so far, it's been pretty popular. And
Well, that's more important. I mean, history is great, but we like to hear from people that were like yourself, that were there, had firsthand experience, firsthand eyewitness. That to me, that's really the true history when we can hear from someone that actually lived it.
survived.
And so let me ask you, if there's someone watching this show live, or whether they're watching days, weeks, or months later, and they're interested in buying your book, where would they go purchase it at?
Amazon. Amazon's got it in both print and Kindle, and there's an audio version in there too.
Also an audio version, so you can
Yeah.
listen to it in the car then,
Yeah, it's 13 and a half hours long.
Oh, hey, that's a good road trip then, huh?
Oh, yeah, you're going to have to keep it in the wind for quite a while. And I did the audio version.
That is awesome. So you mentioned Cambodia earlier. Were you there, I guess, when the Khmer Rouge took over?
Yes, at the end of the existence in Cambodia, I was over in Battambang, and a fellow that enticed me to come up there was also there. And he had a flat nose wheel tire on his Convair, and we could hear a 50 caliber firing outbound. And wow, the bad guys are that close, we got a problem. And one of the Cambodian officers came up to us and said, all American go home. I said, no, we didn't know that.
No. News to you, right?
They bring in helicopters and take your embassy, our generals, and all our politicians, and they leave. And I said, well, we didn't so far. So I told Phil, I'm going to go back down to Kampong Sam on the coast. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to go ahead and pack up and head for Bangkok. If you want to join me, be down there by noon. And otherwise, afternoon, I'm color me gone. And he said, fair enough. And so I went down there and spent the night. And the next day, there was a Chinese crew there flying a DC-3.
Okay.
And I told that co-pilot, you might think about going out of the country. And his captain said, oh, no, just you long-nosed round eyes in danger. Me Chinese, they don't shoot at me. Yeah. So, well, they took off before we got out to the airport, and was there at the ramp, and had them offload all the cargo and passengers. Told them I'm going to have to test fly it. Well, the station manager gave me a funny look. I think he knew what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
little suspect there.
yeah, it's about 10 o'clock, and over the low hills to the north, here comes the DC-3. And he slammed it on the ground, crow hopped down the runway and came back up. And the captain came out of the airplane screaming, oh, Phnom Penh burning, we go. I said, shut up.
Yeah, right.
You're going to have a panic here.
You'll have a naysayer there.
Yeah. But of course, at this time, most of the little noodle stands and everything on the ramp had closed up and left. And they refueled and they headed off. And I told the co-pilot, don't go to Bangkok because you still got your passengers on board and they're going to throw you in the Huskow. Go to Sadahib, which is a military base, and you can get away with that. And so that's what they did. And the clock's ticking down towards noon. And I told my steward and stewardess, which was one of the owner's relatives, who was a stewardess, was a steward, and he had his girlfriend along. I think she was 13 or 14 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
I says, "Get your stuff, and we're going to leave." He says, "Good idea, good idea."
Well, yeah, I think that's an excellent idea.
But it's now about 11:30, and the station manager's there. And I went up to him and I told him, we're going to leave. We're going to go to Thailand, and you come too. Well, he looked me in the face and said, "No, Captain, my family, Phnom Penh."
Oh.
Well,
Hmm.
I was tempted to force him on board, but I could understand his.
His family, yeah.
I
Hmm.
probably would have forced him on board if I would have known that 1.7 million of his countrymen were going to be slaughtered during this Holocaust. But
That's
I
horrible.
did. Noon came around, got the crew on board, and I had a Filipino co-pilot, but he wasn't a pilot; he was a mechanic.
Mm.
But I was down to 104 pounds from hepatitis.
Wow. Oh, man.
Cranked the right engine up at noon, and I'm bringing the air stair door, and looked out to the left side. Station manager's there with a fire bottle, and cranked the left engine, and temperatures and pressures were coming up. And he must have seen this in a movie somewhere. He always saluted when you released the brakes and taxied out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there was tear tracks on his cheeks.
Mm.
That was hard.
That was difficult, I'm sure.
And I returned his salute and taxied out on the runway. No point in running it up. I'm going to go.
Yeah, right.
Turned around out at the end and poured the power to it. Going by the ramp at about 90 knots, he's still standing there.
Just watching you go. Wow.
Yeah, his world was leaving, his job, everything.
Yeah. This whole thing
Didn't
was
know
gone.
the fate
Yeah.
of his family either. But 100 some knots rotate, and she came off Cambodian soil for the last time.
Wow. And the rest, as they say, unfortunately, is history in that situation.
Well, I carried onward and upward, headed for Bangkok, caught the airway, and went on emergency frequency and asked somebody to relay a flight plan for me. Well, Lufthansa 693 came on, and I told him what I'd left in Cambodia and heading for Bangkok on the airway. And he could relay a flight plan. And he was silent for a little bit. And he said, "Captain, you know Cambodia is no more. It has fallen."
Mm.
So got to Bangkok and didn't have a passport, didn't have anything, but had a uniform on. Faked my way through customs and immigration.
Oh, the red tape you had to go through, I'm sure.
Well, I didn't do any red tape.
No? Well,
They just waved me through since we were in airline uniforms.
exactly.
And caught a taxi into Bangkok, but I didn't have any American money. I had a suitcase full of Cambodian reals, and the 100 real note, which was their biggest, was green and had 100 in all the corners. And when a taxi driver got close to where I wanted to go, I says, "You take them everywhere else, but I don't have any change. You get change for this 100 and bring it back?" "Oh, yeah." He snatched it out of my hand and spoke, thinking he was going to really score on this deal.
Right, exactly.
But I went to one of the bars there, which was frequented by Air America people. And in the bar was Prince Panya from Laos, part of the royal family. And he had his Filipino accountant with him. Well, this was great. And he says, "Where you been?" I said, "Phnom Penh." He says, "Oh, that's terrible." And I said, "I've got a convoy outside. It's got Laotian registry on it." And he says, "You want to come to Vientiane and fly for me?" I said, "Sure." He had his accountant open his briefcase and gave me $9,000 in greenbacks, which was able to pay the landing fee and buy fuel and everything else, and headed up to Vientiane,
Oh, wow.
where he made me chief pilot of the C-46 Rice Rock program. Well, this was great. I was dropping rice to places we couldn't go before because the enemy held it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I'd go occasionally into the Plain de Jars and be met there by a major in a uniform, North Vietnamese, with a red star on his head cap. And he'd treat me to a cup of tea and always give me a bottle of whiskey. The Russians were doing the same thing, except
Oh, really? Oh,
I'd be
wow.
making 3 trips to there too. They were a little top heavy on administration. And finally, one day they kept putting a little soldier in their cockpit, and he's sitting behind me in a jump seat, and he's got a red star on his cap, and he's got a pistol on his belt.
Mm.
Well, the odds are this is not going to go well.
Mm-mm.
So I ended up bribing a border guard to get across the Mekong River and caught a train down to Bangkok. Got on Pan Am down in Bangkok. I only had enough money for space available ticket as far as Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, wow. That's your own American soil, though, you know?
Yeah, but I was sad to leave Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very sad event as we taxied out and took off. And behind me, there are just so many memories and friends that are, their spirits are still in the sky there.
Absolutely. And well, I'm going to show everybody your book again, Captain Hansen. Ladies and gentlemen, I would highly recommend, if you like history like I do, I mean, this is a first-hand experience. This is not from a third party. You know, this is someone who was actually there, Captain Neil Hansen. The name of the book is Flight, an Air America pilot story of adventure, descent, and redemption. Highly recommend it, and it is available on Amazon. And as I said earlier in the broadcast, look for this book, most importantly, ladies and gentlemen. But if you're on Facebook, look for this site, Air America Historical Social Club. Make sure you like it, look into it, and like me, we'll look into it and learn a lot too that we didn't know. As I said in the broadcast, Captain Hansen, you probably heard in my monologue, a lot of us have heard of Air America, but we didn't know the whys, whens, wheres, hows, you know. So I'm glad, and I'm going to bring it up again, your book, I am so glad that you've got this to educate people, to let them know what, what an important role that you and Air America played during this time.
Well, thank you. And out there at the Vietnam Museum there outside of Weatherford, they've got copies of this book, and they're all autographed.
Okay. And we're looking forward to it. And before we end the program, I want to share some comments with you. Very good comments. I'll show you a different one. Gene Hudson says, "We will be praying for you, Captain Hansen."
Oh, thank you, Gene.
And then Sandra Piper says, "Captain Neil Hansen, you have had such an interesting and awesome life."
Thank you.
Okay. And Gary made a comment. Do you agree with this one? He says, "So Air America was the air version of the Merchant Marines." Would you say that's true or no?
Yes, that would be very true. And of course, the Merchant Marine got benefits. They got stuff through the house, so that they qualified for civil service benefits, which we're hoping something like that would happen to us before we're all gone.
I absolutely agree. And then we have a user says, "Thank you, Captain Hansen." So you've got a great crowd out here that have appreciated your service, sir. And let me say on behalf of myself and everybody else, thank you for your service, sir. It's very much appreciated. And most of all, your service, of course, but also sharing your experience with us and all the future generations afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go to Amazon, look for Captain Neil Hansen's book, Flight, You will be learning a lot and very interesting because it is coming firsthand.
Thank you.
Captain Hansen, again, thank you for being on the Van Buren Variety Show tonight. We wish you all the best, and hopefully we'd like to have you back on the show to tell you more of your interesting stories.
Yes, love to.
Have a great night, sir.
You too, sir.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it all for tonight's episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. Make sure, if you like this show, especially with this episode, make sure you hit the like button. And if you have any questions, if you're watching this show much later after the live broadcast, you can still leave a comment here. And if you have a question for Captain Hansen or a comment, let me know, and I'll make sure that I'll forward that to him and he can respond to it. And as always, if you like the show, if you like variety, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and that way you will get notifications of future guests, future topics. So if you like variety, this is the channel to be. Make sure you look for Van Buren Variety. That's Van Buren Variety on YouTube, that I'm on the air once a week. So I am Bob Van Buren. That's going to do it for me tonight. I appreciate you all tuning in, and I will see you next week. Have a great week, everybody. Good night.